Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and welcome to spooky season, y'all. We finally made it. It is October, and starting today, every Sunday, I'm gonna put out a list of 7 films for you guys to watch that week, just to get you ready for Halloween. Do a countdown. I know the normies usually watch a Christmas movie every day. You might do 25 days of Christmas. Well, this is like 31 days of Halloween with a different horror movie to watch every single night. We're going to do a bunch of different things. We're going to span different subgenres. We're going to span the decades. We're going to watch a little bit of everything. So here we go. Let's get started with today's must watch. Sunday, October 1st, we are going to watch Sleepy Hollow. Now, Sleepy Hollow, or The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, was actually one of the first bits of horror fiction to ever be published in the United States. And it pits foes, Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman against one another. But then you bring into the fold a star-studded cast with names like Christopher Walken and Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci. And then you put director Tim Burton at the helm, and you know you are in for a gothic fairy tale that is going to astound and entertain you. There's so much to love about this film. It's deeply comedic. It has those Tim Burton sensibilities, and the set deck is just so fascinating and alluring. Everything is just so dark and bleak, but yet beautiful. All of the trees in the forest, it almost feels like a character in itself, as all of the branches and roots are so gnarled and twisted. There's so much atmosphere to this movie. It is just dripping with that aesthetic that we need to put us in the right frame of mind for spooky season. So it is a great pick to get us started. All right, now on Monday, October 2nd, we're going to look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, the classic from Tobe Hooper. And look, a bajillion and one college theses have been written about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There is so much subtext about Vietnam and small towns in America washing up in the wake of the war. But that's not what we're looking at right here. That's not why we're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're watching it because this is a movie marathon geared toward getting you ready for Halloween. So we need some genuine scares and frights, and you cannot outdo what might be the most unnerving and disturbing film in all of horror history, Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's not just because we're looking at a behemoth with a chainsaw and someone else's face on his face. No, that is just the tip of the disturbing iceberg with this flick. We also have a whole family of cannibalistic psychos, and we have a home that is just full of sweat and grit and dirt, and it makes you feel like you're a fly on the wall and you're seeing something that is real and actually happening, and you wouldn't be anywhere else because you've stumbled into a hellscape that you just can't get away from, and you can't believe what you are seeing. Nothing feels clean. Nothing feels right. You're going to want to shower with a Brillo pad after you watch this. Nothing matches how disturbing and tense that dinner table scene is in the third act of Texas Chainsaw, and that is why it fits so nicely on this list. Now, for Tuesday, October 3rd, we got to do something new, right? I don't want to just give you a bunch of classics that you're expecting to see on every single list and you've probably watched every year for as long as you can remember. No, we got to get to the new kids on the block, and I give to you Cobweb. This movie came out a couple of months ago. I don't feel like a lot of people have seen it because it didn't have a wide release in theaters, but it brings the Halloween atmosphere. There are pumpkins all over the place. It brings all that Halloween iconography. It has such an autumnal atmosphere to it, but it also has these amazing, powerful performances that are so deeply layered and interesting by Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr. Now, you're not quite sure what to make of these two. They play parents in this movie to an only child, and you can't figure out if they're just protecting him and maybe doing it a little bit in an overbearing helicopter fashion, or if they are the antagonist and they are not to be trusted. Are they abusive? Have they hurt other children before? What is going on here? And these are questions that you're going to ponder for the first 2 acts all the way through. You'll never really be sure what is going on here. You're going to keep second guessing yourself, and it has to do so much with their performances. All these little gestures they make, all these tiny little micro expressions, the way they play off of one another, the way the lighting cast a doubt upon them. All these little things make you go, what is going on with this movie? I can't answer these questions, and that is a rare thing with movies these days. A lot of scripts have become very predictable. Hollywood has really started to treat its audience like a bunch of dum-dums, and so we get the same stuff over and over. But nay, not with Cobweb, so stick around for that third act, because then things will really get absolutely crazy, left of center, and not at all be what you were anticipating in the first 2 acts. And so it's really worth your time to check out Cobweb. All right, for the 4th, Wednesday, I'm going to say we need to watch the original Exorcist because The Exorcist Believer is coming out this coming Thursday. And so, what better time to go back and revisit that original film or to watch it for the first time if you haven't gotten around to it yet, because you need to. That is like required watching for any horror fan or really even just any movie head out there. A lot of people deem The Exorcist the most terrifying movie of all time. And to that, I say, I full-heartedly agree. Look, there are so many things, so many different accolades and acknowledgments you could throw at this movie for the way it was crafted, for the story it tells, for that slow building tension, so on and so forth. But I'm going to save you time and just say that for me, a die-hard horror fan who actually uses his time and energy to operate a YouTube channel devoted to horror movies, that this is my Moby Dick of all horror movies, because I saw it when I was young and it just rattled me and it almost traumatized me. It kept me awake for months as a child, to where I kept a Bible next to my bed and a little Aquafina bottle that I took Sharpie to and wrote holy water on. Anything I could do to try to keep demons and Satan at bay, because this movie had me convinced that I was not safe. I was scared out of my gourd. Nothing has ever shook me like The Exorcist did. And so to this day, I'm out there chasing that whale, chasing The Exorcist, trying to relive that fear and that weird bodily ride that you go through when something really shakes you and scares you at your core, the way The Exorcist did me. So if you haven't seen it, you gots to. You owe it to yourself to see what you make of The Exorcist. Moving right along to Thursday, let's say you can't make it out to see The Exorcist Believer in theaters, or you do not have Peacock. Well, then maybe you can find some way to stream Slither. Now look, before James Gunn's whole career was bogged down in Caped Crusaders, he was making wholly original, deeply comedic, absurdist flicks like Slither. Now this movie is a send-up of 1950s sci-fi horror films, and it really just boasts so much for you to salivate over. We're talking deep, absurdist, dark comedy. We're talking a star-studded cast that is just out there acting with great aplomb and really just working off each other nicely with fine direction from James Gunn himself. You really do feel like an auteur was at work here, and he had the reins. He knew exactly the picture he wanted to make, and he brought it together. He will have you laughing your ass off, genuinely, and then just a few seconds later reaching for a barf bag, because this movie features some of the most just cringe-inducing body horror that you will see in any movie, anywhere. Yeah, you think David Cronenberg when you think bodily horror. Turns out James Gunn can do it quite well, and it makes sense if you know this guy's sense of humor. You know how dark and twisted he is, and that he'll go to places that he probably shouldn't touch on. So then you throw in these invaders from outer space that are going to morph your physiology, and just think of the possibilities for James Gunn. Slither is definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it, because again, you don't see this type of thing coming to theaters every day. Now, on October 6th, our first Friday of the month, let's do some light fare that is just zany and fun and freakishly campy. Let's do the 13 Ghost remake. This movie is nothing like the original 13 Ghosts, and that is not a knock against it in the slightest. It goes out, it does its own thing, and it really just stands out from other horror movies. There's so much to love about this. There's so much that is just hammy or cheesy or corny, but it actually kind of goes so far in that direction that it reverts to being charming. Case in point, you have Matthew Lillard giving a prime Matthew Lillard performance. And I feel like if anybody encapsulates those terms I just threw out, it would be Matthew Lillard. So tonally, this movie is highly consistent, and it is just so fun and entertaining. It offers up this fun cast and these fun performances. It offers up this crazy high-tech mansion that's ever shifting and changing and basically working as a labyrinth and a cell for these 13 ghosts. And then those 13 ghosts, there's so much time, love, dedication, and care put into each one's unique design and their background. Each one has its own background that creates so much character and intrigue for each ghost that you'll want to go and research them after the movie and look into them a little bit deeper. You're going to have a favorite ghost or two that you're like, man, that one was just badass, or that one I felt deeply sorry for. What a tragic background. There's a lot to really love about 13 Ghosts that at first you may dismiss the movie as just weird popcorn fare that missed the target. But if you look a little closer, you'll find a really special little diamond in the rough. All right, for our last movie of week one of this marathon or countdown, this challenge, whatever you want to call it, let's stay up entirely too late on Saturday night. Let's turn all of the lights off and let's scare the ever-living shit out of ourselves. Let's watch Sinister. Now, look, science has deemed Sinister to be the scariest movie of all time. I still put my money on The Exorcist, but basically they strapped a lot of electrodes and such to individuals and then monitored their heart rates while they watched a bunch of different horror movies. They looked at other biometrics, and at the end of the day, it turned out Sinister had the biggest effect on people, and by a pretty significant margin. And I get it, because the movie is startling, it's scary, it's disturbing, it's very, very dark. It makes you just not feel safe. It has a great oogie boogie factor about it with its bad guy Bagul. But on top of that, even if it's not my scariest film of all time, I will acknowledge two feats for this film. I think it has one of the greatest jump scares of all time. And I think when you look at the found footage subgenre, if you want to talk about the scariest, most disturbing found footage that I've ever seen, it very well may be in Sinister. So this is a great way to cap off the week. This is a great way to introduce some real frights into our weekend. This is a great way to spend our first week of October. So there you go. Those are my selections for our first week. Let me know your thoughts on these movies if you've seen them. If you haven't, you go check them out. Please come back and drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts were, what you made of these recommendations. And I will see you guys next Sunday when we roll out the next 7 movies that we're going to watch then for week 2. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'm Nate for natemareflix saying that's a wrap.